President Donald Trump returned to the White House after a stay at Walter Reed Medical Center where he was treated for COVID-19. Now, numerous other White House staffers have also tested positive. With the two last debates in suspension, what is the state of the race? Joining us with analysis is political commentator, filmmaker, and author of the new book, States of Socialism, DINESH D'SOUZA. DINESH, thanks for being here. The Commission on Presidential Debates announced their intention to host a virtual debate next week. Here's how both the president and Joe Biden responded.
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about. You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous. And then they cut you off whenever they want.
I think that if I'm going to follow the commission recommendation, if he goes off and he's going to have a rally, I don't know what I'll do.
Well, subsequently, they have said what they would do. The Biden campaign is rejecting moving the debates. The Trump campaign wanted to have one on the 22nd and the 29th. They've rejected that. Your thought on all of this and what this drama is all about?
Well, I think it's probably an effort on the part of the commission to offer a little added protection to Biden, because Biden is not good on his feet. He's probably not in the best mental shape of his life. And Trump is extremely vigorous. I mean, Trump can be his own worst enemy by overthrowing a punch. But on the other hand, right, Trump is fully energetic and in his faculties. So my sense is that a virtual debate would benefit Biden. Trump knows that, and this is partly why he's allergic to it.
So I guess we're going to have one more debate, and that'll be it. That seems to be, the only thing in the cards here. What effect might the president's coronavirus diagnosis have on this race, do you think, Dinesh? And has he missed an opportunity to connect with voters over that diagnosis?
I think that it would have been quite a setback, I think, because if the left had just been quiet about it, feigned a little bit of sympathies about it, then the American people would say, I wonder if this man has been a little reckless on this issue. But in fact, what happens is Trump goes in, and of course the left was salivating. They really wanted pictures of Trump on a stretcher, Trump on a ventilator, Trump getting, they hoped he was going to be like Boris Johnson and be in the intensive care. But instead, 2 days later, the guy comes cartwheeling out. He says he's never felt better. And, the left went into a sort of almost public mourning. They were more mourning over Trump's recovery than they were over Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death.
On Wednesday, President Trump renewed calls, Dinesh, for Congress to pass individual coronavirus relief measures in the form of a series of bills for families, for airlines. Pelosi seems just intransigent on this. She will not give an inch. She wants a full $2 trillion package or nothing. How will this end up playing out?
Well, my guess is it's going to be a stalemate, because we have not only a real ideological divide, but it's now marinated with the anger between the two sides in terms of personality. The mutual dislike of Trump and Pelosi has reached sort of epic proportions. So it's really hard to see them meeting in the middle. The old idea of both of you sit down and kind of find some spot in the middle, that seems so unlikely and so foreign to American politics today, because we don't just disagree on means, we disagree on ends.
Right. Going into the VP debate on Wednesday night, multiple polls showed Biden with a lead over Trump, 52 to 40 in the latest Rasmussen poll. Fox has a 53 to 43% spread. How worried should the Trump camp be less than a month away from the election?
Well, they can be worried. I think that they are doing their best to make their case, and their case is economic prosperity, law and order, and the idea that Trump represents the best ideals of America that the left is trying to sort of take down. Now, if the American public doesn't believe that, or if they think that Trump may have the right message but is the wrong messenger, Trump is not somebody who can fix that. Trump basically is Trump. He's who he is. Now, I think that the polls are understating Trump's support. I live in a very red part of Texas, and pretty much everyone is for Trump. But you won't see a lot of Trump hats. You won't see a lot of Trump signs. The cultural intimidation in our society over being for Trump has reached typhoonic levels. So even in red parts of America, people don't want to be hassled. So my guess is if a pollster calls one of our guys, hey, are you voting for Trump? Nah, I'm undecided. That's really a way of saying that Trump may have a lot more support than the polls are letting on.
The coronavirus was front and center at the debate the other night, the vice presidential debate, which was very consequential given the health of, these candidates at the top of the ticket. I want to play a little of what each candidate said when asked about dealing with the pandemic. Watch.
210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan.
The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about.
How effective was that exchange? And will this notion of lockdown versus liberty be a factor as this race ends, Dinesh?
I think it is, because I think people are beginning to feel the chokehold of a kind of economic lockdown that is now extended, not weeks, but really months. And there's only so much of this that people can take who don't have a big safety margin of money that they can sort of live on in semi-retirement mode. And the government's help can only do so much. The critiques of Trump are by and large based on sort of imaginary universes. Like, Trump knew this was a threat, but he didn't tell the American people. Well, what could he have said? Get tested? There weren't tests available. Wear a mask? There weren't masks available. So Trump's kind of prudential rationale, hey, listen, I didn't want to cause a panic, is a very reasonable thing for him to say. Remember, in World War II, England was losing the war, but Winston Churchill kept flatly denying that. In a sense, you may say flying in the face of reality, but sometimes that's the best thing you can do until you get your act together.
The economy and taxes also came up debate, obviously important issues to the voter. Here's what Kamala Harris said about the Trump tax cuts.
On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people.
Pence defended the tax cuts this way. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of four had $2,000 in savings in taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of four increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts.
Now, Harris claimed that Joe Biden would not cut taxes on anyone making less than $400,000. Your reaction, how important is this?
Well, it's a manifest contradiction for anyone who is paying attention. Now, it's customary for politicians to contradict things that they may have said last year or even last month, but to contradict something that you're saying simultaneously is a little crazy. Either you're going to repeal the Trump tax cut, in which case people are going to see their taxes increase even if they make less than $400,000, or you're not. Right. So which is it?
Right, and they get fishy on that. And for several minutes, Pence tried to get Harris to answer whether or not she and Biden would pack the high court. It went this way.
Your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question, so I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed at the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
And the question was never answered. I mean, it was refused, as Joe Biden refused it as well. Why do you think there's an inability to answer that question?
I think this is a theme, by the way, Raymond, that is front and center in my new film, Trump Card. But I think what's going on here is this, that the left always wants to bend the rules because they are confident that the other side won't do it also. So they believe that if they knock down our monuments, we won't knock down their monuments. If they pack the court, even if we have all the branches of government, we'll never pack the court. If they use the deep state against us, even if we control the state, we will never use the deep state against them. So they have a sense of immunity about this, but of course they can't level with the American people and say that. So they become extremely cagey rhetorically, but we should be really clear that if they have a chance, they will pack the court, just like Pence suggested.
Dinesh, there was a spin across the media about this debate. They said, look, both candidates dodged questions. And of course, there was the fly coverage, the fly that landed on Mike Pence's hair, which got they covered that almost as much as Ruth Bader Ginsburg's goodbye. What was your takeaway from this VP debate, and will it matter come November?
My takeaway is that this was a fencing match, not like the MMA or the mud wrestling match that was the first debate between Trump and Biden. This was a little bit more two guys in fencing uniforms scoring points. But I thought it was very interesting that Kamala Harris ran away from the far left agenda. Normally, the media is telling us that things like banning fracking, the Green New Deal, confiscating guns, these are immensely popular with the American people. And yet, when the ideas come up before the American people on a national stage, I thought it was interesting that Kamala Harris put on her running shoes.
It was interesting to watch. Dinesh D'Souza, thank you so much. United States of Socialism by Dinesh is available at bookstores everywhere and online. For more information, visit DineshD'Souza.com. Thank you.
My pleasure.